In this video, I'm going to show you how to not only migrate a website, but grow your website from this to this in 3 simple steps. Hey, what's up bros and sis? Jaden here, and throughout my SEO career, one of the most common questions I've gotten is about website migration. Specifically, how do you actually do a website migration without losing rankings and without losing traffic? In this video, I'm going to show you how I do it in 3 simple steps, and you definitely want to pay attention to step number 2. So here's an example of a successful site migration that we've done in the past, and to give you a little bit more context, we changed this domain from a .io domain over to a .com domain. So it's basically a redirection or a migration from website to a totally different new domain. And I'm going to show you some examples here. Did the migration from around 2022 in the period of January. The traffic was getting around 1,600-ish organic traffic going to previous website. And when we did the migration using our system, we basically went from having 1,600 traffic to now, since we've done the migration in January, you can see from March onwards, the traffic has been increasing and is still increasing, and we are continuously breaking personal best for the entire website. So here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need 2 items. The first one will be a website crawling tool. My choice is Screaming Frog. I've used this for a number of years now. It's my go-to choice for any crawling purposes. So what you can do is you can get a free plan with this, and it allows you to crawl up to 500 pages or 500 URLs for free. For any small projects, you can definitely work on this for free. However, if your project is a lot bigger, for example, if it's 1,000 pages or more than that, then you will need a paid license with this. But trust me, it's really worth the investment. Go check it out. It's a really good crawling tool. So that's first. The second thing that you will need is data, specifically Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and you want to have some kind of backlink data for the project that you're working on. Firstly, for Google Search Console or for Google Analytics, if you have both, that will be perfect. If you do not have both, then I'll suggest you to have minimally one, either Google Analytics or Google Search Console, just because you can see the traffic trends or the number of organic sessions or traffic a specific page is. Secondly, it's link. What you will need is either, again, our go-to tool for links right now, it's Ahrefs, for us to see on the URL level which URL has links. And for us, we use Ahrefs. If you would like to, you can use SEMrush as well. But again, the choice is up to you. Here is how you actually crawl the website. So what you want to do is open up Screaming Frog, key in your domain name. So in this case, I'm going to use Trev example here. So once you key in your domain name, what you want to do is you want to go over to configuration, hit API access, select Google Analytics 4. And what you want to do is you want to sign in with Google. Once you've connected your Google Analytics 4, next you want to basically select all data streams that you're working with. And for date range, go over to date range. You can select either the past 6 months or the past 12 months. That's depending on your preference. So what I usually do is I either select either past 6 months or past 12 months, as long as the date range that you're selecting is consistent throughout all the data that you're pulling in. So in this case, I'm going to select past 12 months. You can go over to the matrix section here. The most important thing that you want to select, first of all, the conversions. If you are working in an e-commerce site, then you want to have any kind of like transactions, important ones. But I generally like to keep things simple when I'm doing a site migration. What I select is conversions needs to be in there, session as well. So this session is automatically selected, but you want to make sure that sessions here is selected. Over to the filter section here, you can see that your dimension type, you can select the session default channel group. This means that you are understanding which sessions does the specific user belong to, whether do they belong to organic, whether they came from social media and things like that. So what I like to do, because from an SEO perspective, everything is, I like to look at things that are from the organic channel. You can select session default channel group, go over to the organic search section, and you can click OK. Now, you can also just leave this to default, which means you're looking at the entire data for all the traffic channels. That's perfectly fine. But for me, I like to just look at organic search. And then the rest, you can just leave it as it is. And then once you're done, click OK. What you want to do is go over to API access, click on Google Search Console, connect your account here. Once it's connected, then select your property that you're working with, go over to search analytics and make sure that this is selected inconsistent with what you have selected for your Google Analytics. In case I'm going to select the past 12 months. Now do take note if you are working with a specific market. So for example, in this case, let's say I just want to focus on the Singapore market. Depending on which market that you're focusing on, you just want to select the country filter here. You are looking at only relevant data here. So if you are working on a bigger site or a bigger scope and you're targeting a lot of different markets, then you can leave this to all. But if you're only working for a specific market, targeting a specific geographic place, then you just want to select which countries that you're specifically targeting. So in this case, I'm going to select Singapore, and the type filter here, just leave it to default as web, and then the rest you can just leave it as default. We are good to go, and then just click on OK. And then last but not least, you want to connect your backlink data to see on the URL level which URL has links. Next thing here, go over to API access, go over to Ahrefs, and over here you need to either have a SEMrush or Ahrefs account because this requires a API. In this case, what you can do, go over to your Ahrefs or SEMrush or Moz, whichever backlink data tool you're using. For me, I'm using Ahrefs. So I'm going to go over and connect it to my Screaming Frog over here. So once you've connected your API, head over to the matrix section. You just want to keep the referring domains checked. You can leave the rest as is, but the most important metric that you should be focusing on here is the number of referring domains. As long as this is checked, it's perfectly fine. Hit OK, and once that is done, then your website is good to crawl. What happens next is for you to just basically crawl the website. Click on start, let Screaming Frog do its thing, and I'm gonna cut back to once it's finished crawling. So once the Screaming Frog is done with its crawl, you're gonna end up with something like this. Just take note, over here at the API section, it should say 100% connected. If it's not 100%, that means something went wrong with your API connection and you just wanna go back to the previous steps, figure out which connection didn't went through. Once this is done, the crawl is done, go over to the HTML section because you only want to look at HTML, so you don't want to look at the rest of the stuff like images and things like that. So select HTML, click on export, and you can name this whatever you want. Click on save. Alright, so the next thing that you want to do is you want to import the data over to Google Sheets. I'm going to show you how to do it. You can simply go over to File, New, and create a new spreadsheet. Name it to whatever name that you want. I'm going to show you this as an example. Head over to File. In this case, I've already created a spreadsheet. You can see it here. To import is pretty simple. Head over to File, Import, select Upload, head over to Browse. Depending on where you saved the earlier crawl from, I'm going to select this, hit Open. And you can either create a new spreadsheet or append to the current sheet. For me, I like to append to the current sheet. Both ways work. Here you go. These are all the things that it's being imported. Alright, so moving on to step number 2. Step number 2 here, what we are trying to identify is pages that we need to focus on. Now, when you're doing a site migration, there's a lot of pages that you want to look at. If your website has over 1,000 pages or even 10,000 pages, it could mean a hassle for you because you need to look at a lot of pages. The question is not so much about how many pages you should be looking at. How we qualify which pages we are focusing on comes down to 2 factors for me. The first one, it's whether if a page has any kind of traffic going to that page, I want to focus on that. And secondly, if a page has any kind of links going to that page, because I also want to pay attention to that. And you can figure all of this out in this sheet. I'm going to show you how to do it. First things first, going over to your Google Sheet, what you want to do is you want to create a filter. You can do this simply by going over to the first row and click on the Create Filter section. This will allow you to filter out all the data and look at only the ones basically sorting out which data it's important to look at. The first thing that I mentioned earlier, it's looking at the traffic. What we want to do is head over to the column that has traffic data. There's a couple of columns that you can choose from. First thing is the GA4 sessions. This shows you how much organic traffic this page has gotten, how many sessions this page has gotten over the past 6 months, because this is the filter that I've selected for myself. What you can do is you can also look at the conversions. This will show you how many conversions have taken place at this specific URL. And the next thing, if you have Google Search Console connected as well, you can also look at the number of clicks that specific page has gotten. I ideally look at just the GA4 sessions. What you do, go over to the GA4 sessions and you want to sort it by the highest to the lowest. And the reason why is because this gives you a landscape view of which pages have gotten the most organic traffic for the past 6 months. And you can see over here, number of pages that hasn't gotten that much traffic, but there are a few pages that I definitely want to focus on because these pages are getting most of the traffic to this website. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to just mark it down so that when you're looking at what to do for a site migration, you're paying attention to these pages first because these pages are the most important ones. So the next thing you want to do is you want to highlight which pages you should be focusing on. For me, I've selected this as my highlights for the past 6 months. Head over to the first column here. You can mark all of this as yellow, for example. When I'm doing the site migration, these pages are definitely pages that I want to focus on. The next thing that you want to do is you want to identify which pages have links, and you can do that similarly just like the same approach earlier on. Head over to the Ahrefs referring domain section and you want to filter it out by Z to A as well. This will show you which pages have the most links. And again, you can see these are the number of pages that have any kind of links going to them. I also want to pay attention to these pages as well. And you can see some of them has already been marked with a yellow. I'm just going to make sure that I marked all of them a yellow. So right from the get-go, you can see of all the URLs that we have around 131 URLs. These are the pages that we definitely want to pay attention to. We don't want to just 404 them and delete these pages if we are deleting them. If we are not, then we want to keep those pages. Final step, what you need to do is you need to figure out what to do with these URLs that you have highlighted. There's only a couple of things that you can do. You can redirect them, you can merge them, you can remove them, you can delete them. Ultimately, that depends on when you're doing a site migration, what is your main purpose of doing that site migration? Are you moving to an entirely new domain? Are you moving to a subdomain? That depends on the specific project that you're working on. But this section here, it's basically to allow you to focus on which pages are the most important, right? So when you're looking at all these highlighted ones, the rest of the pages you can have some kind of leeway because these are not important pages. In a sense, they don't have anything much to lose out from because they either don't have traffic or they don't have links. If you want to delete them, that's perfectly fine. If you want to merge them, it's perfectly fine. If you want to, remain as it is, that's perfectly fine as well. But for these pages that is highlighted in yellow, you definitely want to be intentional about them, right? So what you can do is you can come up with a implementation system. Go over to this section here and you want to remove the filter. Right click on the first column here and you want to insert a column to the left. And here you can just basically list down actions to take, okay? And I just want to make this white. So there's only a few actions that you can take. You can either leave it, okay? You can either redirect it, you can merge, you can delete. So these are some of the most common actions that you can take on the URL level. However, one thing that you need to take note is when you are doing migration for these pages here, you definitely do not just want to delete them. You want to either redirect them or merge them. And if you're leaving it as it is, that's perfectly fine. And the reason why you do not want to just delete these pages is because, like I mentioned earlier, this page already has some kind of resources going to it. It has either traffic or it has either links. And when you delete a page, these resources is not going to be taken full advantage of. If you are planning, if for some reason this page is going to be deleted, right? You don't just want to delete them, you want to redirect them. And how you redirect them is just basically redirecting a page to a similar page if you can find one. If not, then you want to redirect it to the home page. The most important thing here is not to just delete it. So for example, if for some reason I am going to delete this page, if I'm not offering local SEO anymore, this page doesn't make sense for my business already, then this page is up for deletion whether it has traffic or not. It's not going to make sense for my business. I'm going to delete it anyway. However, if this is highlighted as yellow, I don't just want to delete it. Now I want to do a redirection. I can either redirect it to something similar or to the home page if I cannot find an alternative. And how you find an alternative, it's actually very simple as well. You want to find something that is relevant to this page. So for example, if this page is about local SEO, you can go over to title section and you can search for local SEO and see whether things comes up or not, right? So in this case, this shows me there's only one result. You can also go over to just local, and you can see I have another page that is about transforming local service business through SEO. It has some kind of relevancy towards local SEO. So if I want to do a redirection, I would redirect this page to this page instead, right? So that's one way of how you can redirect it. So the second way that you can do this is to find another relevant page. If you cannot find any pages from the first method here, the second way that you can do this is just look at the URL. So for example, in this case, this is a services/local SEO service page. So if I do not offer any SEO, local SEO anymore, but I'm still offering SEO services, then I can redirect it to my SEO service page, which is, you can see over here, I can redirect it to this page because again, the key point here is relevancy. As long as a page is relevant to the most or highest degree, then that's perfectly fine. If you cannot find any pages that are relevant, then you want to redirect them to the home page instead. So that's how you actually find which pages that you want to redirect to for these important pages. So that's how you do a site migration while paying attention to pages that is very important, specifically pages that are getting traffic and pages that are getting links. Make sure that you are redirecting them. If you are not leaving as it is, do not 404 them. Do not just delete them without doing any kind of redirections. Hopefully that's helpful. Now, if you are doing SEO, you already know that link building is very important. If you want to learn how to build links properly, then you definitely want to check out my link vetting video. Thank you so much for watching this. Chase progress, not perfection.